Hi, I'm Dr. Lloyd Corder. Welcome to week 9 of Nonverbal Communication, our video overview of the week's material. This week's topic is on number 9 here, which are the eyes. And what do our eyes communicate? Eyes are among the most powerful nonverbal channel we have, and there's tons of information that are communicated through them. If you think for a moment, think about the power of eyes. When you're in the conversation and someone's speaking, they have the floor. One of the things we found is whoever they look at last is the person that has the floor. So if I'm talking with you and two others, and I look at one of the other two, and you start to talk, what happens? You're being rude, you're interrupting me. So I can control conversations, and you can control conversations based on who you look at and how long you gaze at someone and why and so forth. So very, very powerful use of the eyes. The other part of the eyes, if you take my glasses off for a second, if you can see in the middle of my eye is something called a pupil. My kids tell me I have blue eyes. They are apparently supposed to match my shirt today. And that black part in the center of my eyes is called the pupil. And there's a fellow by the name of Eckhart Hess who did a lot of work on this and discovered some interesting things about our pupils. So Eckhart Hess is laying in bed one night and he's reading a book of African animals, elephants, giraffes, tigers, this sort of thing. And his wife is laying next to him and she's reading a newspaper. And she looks over at him and says, "Eckhart, your pupils are really dilated tonight. They're big as saucers." He looks at her and says, "Wow, your pupils are really small. How is it that we're in the same light? My pupils are big, your pupils are small." It was supposed to be light that dilated or constricted your pupils. The more light, the tinier your pupils got. So the next day, Eckhart Hess is a social scientist. He goes back to his office, and at his office, he says to his research assistant, he says, "I want to run a little experiment." And he shows him an African elephant on the experiment. Nothing happens. He's looking at his pupils the whole time. Shows him a giraffe. Nothing happens. Shows him a Playboy centerfold, a pinup. All of a sudden, this guy's eyes got big as saucers. And Eckhart Hess went on to do 25 years worth of research that came up with the same conclusion over and over and over again. And that's this. When we like something, our pupils will dilate. Wow, that's good to know. So how do we apply this? How do we use this? If you think for a moment of a dark restaurant, and then you're out at a bar or restaurant, whatever, and it's late and they turn the lights on. What is the difference between, if the lights get turned on at 2 in the morning, what is the difference between 1:59 and 2:01? Usually the mood changes dramatically. Why? Because our pupils are dilated. We are liking that environment more than when the lights are on. In some industrial settings or retail settings, the lighting is designed to move you along. Fast food's a perfect example. We want bright lights. We want people in there hurrying up, eating, turn those tables, move them out. In a more intimate restaurant, the lighting is lower. Here's a question I have for you. If the same food was served at the same two different places, a fast food style lighting versus a more intimate lighting, which one would it taste better in? A lot of people think the second one, the more intimate level, and that's because our pupils are dilated. If you go into certain offices, people have their lights down low. It's more relaxing. So you can see all sorts of benefits to controlling someone's mood and even their communication and behavior based on whether or not their pupils are dilated. Next time you're in a conversation, try this. Try to look at the person's pupils. Are they getting bigger? Now, if you have blue eyes like mine, it's relatively easy to see. If you have dark eyes, you basically have a huge advantage because it looks like your pupils are gigantic anyway. And you look back in ancient times, there were a drug like belladonna that the Romans used, and that was used to dilate the pupils. The women thought it and knew that it made them more attractive. How about a baby versus a wicked witch? Who has bigger pupils, the baby or the wicked witch? You know what I'm talking about, for Halloween or something, like a poster on there, an evil person. Usually it's the baby. A wicked witch has beady little eyes, tiny little eyes. And so it more or less communicates fear, distrust, or whatever, versus the babies has gigantic pupils. So all sorts of things are communicated. So if you're in a meeting and you're talking to someone and that person's pupils are dilated, there may be other signs, but chances are that person likes what they're hearing or what you're talking about. So it can be a huge, huge advantage. So this week's session is all about the eyes. And we'll have, again, a lot of good discussion question opportunities, a lot of great materials, experiments, all sorts of things to really help you figure out what are some ways you can get better at using your eyes. Thanks a lot. Have a great week, and we'll see you at the start of next week's session.